Welcome to Free Meditation TV. My name's Andrew, and this is our special guest, Dr. Deva.
Thank you, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Dr. Deva is a medical doctor, and we've seen her before giving talks on meditation and Western medicine, and today we'd like to ask her a few questions.
Okay.
Our first question is, Dr. Deva, can you talk a little bit about the nervous system and the spine and how that would relate to meditation? Just a little introduction for us.
So, for those of you who are aware of Sahaja Yoga, there is what is known as a subtle system in our bodies that is kind of imprinted on our brains and our spinal cords, which we are really not aware of at the physical level. And interestingly enough, our central nervous system, our peripheral nervous system, correlates to this subtle system in terms of the location and the actions of the subtle system.
Okay. So you're relating to how in previous episodes we talk about the left side of the body and there's energy there, and then there's the right side of the body, there's energy there, and our spinal column is the center channel. Are you saying that these kind of line up with Western terminologies?
Well, my understanding of Sahaja Yoga in Western medicine is that we have the left channel, the right channel, and the center channels. Mm-hmm. And these actually correlate to our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, which is part of the autonomic nervous system. Mm-hmm. So all of this is actually in our spinal cord or beside our spinal cord. The left and the right channels make up the sympathetic, and the center, the parasympathetic.
Right. Well, that matches up nicely then when we have the right channel and the left channel and the center channel. In Sahaja Yoga, we talk about how the fingertips tell us the conditions of the chakras. Could you elaborate on how those nerves work from the chakras into the fingertips?
Well, again, as we mentioned earlier, the chakras are represented on the physical body, on our spines and in our brain as bundles of nerves or nerve plexuses. And interestingly, these nerve plexuses correspond to each chakra. So, for example, if we take the cervical plexus, which is the nerve bundles that is located at our neck, at the cervical spine, this plexus actually innervates the upper extremities, and that includes the shoulders, the arms, and the wrists and the hands, fingers, and the chakras. The fifth chakra, or the Vishuddhi Chakra in Sahaja Yoga, would be felt on these two fingers. Mm-hmm. And therefore, there is a connection with these two fingers, the cervical plexus and the Vishuddhi Chakra.
And that's what some of the things that we talk about, how the ancient Indians and Chinese, they would map out the nerve endings from, as you said, the Vishuddhi finger, the pointer fingers, right up into the neck.
And amazingly, the subtle system has connections with our hands, with our fingers, with our heads, with our feet, and correlate to each chakra and plexus in our spinal cord.
One thing that our audience is quite interested in, and that I personally was interested in when I started meditating, is how to remove the stress from certain areas of the body. For example, when I first started meditating, I used to kind of carry my shoulders up really high. And what was amazing, after 2 weeks of meditating, I actually felt physically my shoulders drop, and quite substantially. Could you elaborate on how meditating helps reduce the stress in these nerve endings or the chakras themselves?
Well, stress in itself is a very big term, and Western medicine encompasses quite a significant burden of...
Well, maybe we can do a whole episode on stress, as our audience really enjoys meditation to reduce stress. A lot of our feedback is I meditate now every day just to feel better about myself and relax. And I'm kind of tying that in with stress relief. Maybe I shouldn't, but I let you elaborate on that.
Well, definitely, modern science does recommend meditation for stress relief. Stress in itself is a concern for not only the Western world now, but as the Eastern too. Unfortunately, the left and the right channels, which represent the sympathetic nervous system, seem to be in overdrive in modern society. And the reason for that is because there is high expectations and people wanting to achieve more, which isn't a bad thing. But unfortunately, what happens is when we put too much pressures on ourselves, we lose the ability to balance our bodies. And then the stress takes over. And as we all know, stress does cause damage, oxidative damage on the cellular level. And this, over time, does wear down the body and will manifest in different physical forms as physical illness. So, the Sahaja Yoga meditation does help bring this stress back into balance by bringing your subtle system back into balance. And when we are able to do that, the stress is relieved. And this has a very positive impact on both our physical, our mental, our psychological, and our spiritual being. And it actually improves the physical body in total.
I'm very curious when you said how the stress starts to take over. And I'm sure we've all felt that, those times, those weeks in our life where we're really feeling on edge and things are really building up. Could we maybe elaborate a little bit on how to reverse the stress really taking over? Maybe you could give a couple examples. You know, we've talked in a few of our episodes, especially our episode on balance, episode 3, about how to move if you're left-sided to the center, if you're right-sided, moving back to the center. But like, if you want to elaborate on just how that stress really can take over and how we can get it out of our life.
So I would have to go back in history to the evolution of mankind. When we were created, we had the sympathetic channels or the sympathetic drive basically as a self-preservation instinct. The sympathetic channels release adrenaline and noradrenaline, which are two hormones, and the hormone function is to release a fight or flight response. And so when we were confronted with anything that would be dangerous to our survival or livelihood, we would either overcome that by fighting or run away from it if we could for self-preservation. But what has happened over time is that sympathetic drive has kicked in and is not slowing down. And a good example of that would be an average day in a human being. So we wake up to an alarm clock, which starts your sympathetic drive. We don't help by adding to having a cup of joe. And then we get into the car and we're driving in traffic. We're caught up in jams. We're rushing to get to work. There are timelines to meet, deadlines to finish. And we're just in a constant state of stress. And we don't have the opportunity to slow down. We don't have the opportunity to go back into balance. This has become an acceptable way of living in modern society. And unfortunately, we kind of become desensitized to this, and this may sound reasonable, but the physical body, the emotional body can't continue with this stress indefinitely. And so eventually the body does say, enough, I'm sick, I need help. And that's when illness presents. And that's sometimes a little late. And so Sahaja Yoga meditation is an intervention to try and bring our balance or bodies back into balance early. This is an early intervention.
Here's a chance today, everyone, for that intervention. If you've been putting your foot on the gas pedal, if you've been living the life that Dr. Deva is saying, if you had a cup of coffees today, ran to work, ran home to avoid traffic, now it's time to put the brakes on. And we're going to try to do that now. We're going to have a meditation and we're going to put on the brakes. So let's have a little meditation now to slow down our subtle system, nervous system. How would you say it?
Actually, to slow down our sympathetic nervous system, really, and get into the parasympathetic, where we are more relaxed and more collected. And amazingly, this meditation actually helps us deal with stresses better in terms of our response to it and our ability to adjust to difficulties and challenges that are arising every day.
I'm sure our audience is going to enjoy that. Let's de-stress. Let's move from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic, as Dr. Deva has said. And now let's start a meditation.
I bow to all the seekers of truth. That's a very interesting subject that has been given to me to talk to you people. Because I've been always worried about the IAS, IPS, and other government servants. Very much worried. Because I have known the kind of life my husband was leading, and I used to think, if these new people who have come to these services, to the government service, we have to tell them the dangers that are ahead of them. Because we don't know what is the subtle system within us which works. And in this subtle system, when we lead this kind of a very speedy, intensive life, it has a defect. It has a defect. You can see in the chart, they have shown the subtle system, which works it out. So we have a center here on the crossing of the optic nerve. This center is very important because we react with this. We react to everything. By this reaction, we create a problem within ourselves. And this reaction comes to us because we do not know how to go beyond the mind. Every time we are looking at something, we react. We look at someone, we react. But we cannot just watch. We cannot be just the witness. If we could be the witness, it will not have any effect on us. But we cannot be. That's the trouble when this center is very active. We call it as Agya Chakra. Where the two optic nerves meet. At the crossing point, this center is placed. Even Jung has said that you have to go beyond your thoughts, and that you have to become thoughtlessly aware. Even in our Shastras it is written that you have to have Nirvichar Samadhi, means without thought, and the another is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Now even Einstein has said that you have to go beyond the mind to reach the torsion area, he calls. When he was searching for his theory of relativity, he found it was difficult. He couldn't find it. He got very tired. He went into his garden and was playing with soap bubbles like a child. Then he says, suddenly from somewhere else, it dawned upon me this theory of relativity. He calls it openly as a torsion area. And this torsion area we have to touch instead of ourselves thinking all the time and reacting. Because as a result of that, what happens, we should say? What happens is that our movement on the autonomous nervous system goes to the right side. The right side is very good, otherwise a person looks very impressive, he can oppress other, he can be aggressive, he can be very systematic, all these things can be there. But it has a reaction. The reaction is horrible because this right side affects our liver to begin with. Now the liver is called liver because we live because of liver only. That's why it's called liver. This liver gets affected and there is no actually treatment, we should say, in the medical science for liver. They can replace it with a pig's liver or some liver like that. But otherwise there is no way out. But we are the ones, we are spoiling this liver ourselves by creating tremendous heat in the liver. This special liver has got a capacity to absorb heat and release it into the bloodstream. And then, you see, it gets relieved of it. But when it is too much, when the liver is too much full of heat, then it cannot give up that heat. Then this heat start traveling upward. It can go to the right lung. It can go to the heart. Now imagine right lung means asthma. Simple thing is asthma. Then it goes to the heart. When there's a young boy, say of 21 years or so, up to that age, he starts playing cricket, tennis, and drinks a lot. Then he gets a massive heart attack. It's fatal, he cannot live. Then it affects, as I told you, other organs also. This heat goes to the pancreas, causing diabetes of a very serious nature, not of a mild nature, but a very serious nature. Then this heat passes down to the spleen. In the spleen, it gives you blood cancer. This is all possible for all right-sided people, I'm telling you. That's why I was worried that people who are, according to me, are the spine of our country. They are the spine of our country. They should not get out of life because of too much of strain and stress on their mind. Now then it goes to the kidneys. It coagulates the kidneys and you get kidney trouble, or you cannot pass urine and you have all the troubles there. Apart from that, it goes to the lower intestines and you get terrible constipations and all the problems of the constipation. Then also to the heart. At a later age, it comes. It goes on affecting, ultimately, your heart fails. Very early in age, I know of recently 2 people died of heart trouble who were at a very good position. This is very much worrying me, that how to bring them to close to themselves, to know themselves what the problem is and how to solve that problem. With this, we understand that we react. By reaction, we create such a heat within us. Apart from this, the other psychosomatic diseases, I'm telling about somatic, but the psycho disease which comes from your psychological problems come from the left side. Of course, I'll not deal with that now. But somehow, if you can move from right to the left, you are sure to get some psychosomatic trouble which cannot be cured by medical science, like cancer, AIDS, all kinds of things.
Hi there, welcome back. And a nice meditation with Srimanaji and a nice visit today with Dr. Deva. Thanks so much for coming, Dr. Deva.
My pleasure.
It's great to have you, and we're hoping Dr. Deva comes back for more episodes about the meditation with medical science. Thanks again, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Don't forget to like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and if you have any questions whatsoever or suggestions, please send us an email. We'll be more than happy to get back to you.